Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andrea Ratti, Director of the Master in Yacht Design. I'm now share the presentation. As you can see, this is a teaching offer in Politecnico di Milano, and as you can see, we are launching the 20 edition, so it's a very important anniversary of this experience, and I think that this is even give us the opportunity to offer a great experience, because over these years we had the opportunity to make a fine-tuning on how to deal about yacht design, involving people with different background, because in the master we receive designer, engineer, architect, and many others. And I think that this is a great value, because apart from the content of the master that we can offer and the specific teaching activity that we deal about, there are even an opportunity to share different kind of experience and start working like in a professional team, because yacht design nowadays, as well as many other field of application of design, is an activity that require to get in touch and to share experience and knowledge with many different profile and professionals. So I think that this way of managing even teaching activities is a good way to start working as a yacht designer is asked to do. For doing that, we are working with a lot of professionals. We engaged at the beginning, since the beginning, a lot of colleagues coming from the main Italian university, and generally these colleagues are all colleagues that are dealing about teaching activity, and at the same time they are yacht designer. That means that the way of transferring their experience is not just teaching, but even take information on what is going to happen in the market, what is requested by the customer, what does it mean to make a relationship with a yard who has to take into account your design and to develop your yacht. So this is the way we believe could be effective to manage teaching activities in order to obtain at the end of the master course the capability to the people who attended the master to manage a design, to manage a project management of the yacht construction or many other activities. Sorry, it's not still working. This is exactly our main goal. So we try to organize and transfer to you all the tools, all the informations which are required to manage the process. The process means starting from generating new idea on what a yacht could be, till the construction of the yacht, managing the building process, managing the quality, managing the after sales, and so on. And this is a very complex task, because you have to take into account that when we talk about a yacht, we are talking about a lot of things. of different things, because a yacht is a living environment, because you can live on a yacht. So you have to solve all the functions that you require for a living space. But at the same time, this is a transportation system. And even in this, you have a very huge difference if you compare with the topics about which deal Professor Beret before, because we are talking about a transportation system that moves in water. So you have some problem to solve related to fluid dynamics. If we are talking about a sailing yacht, you have even to refer to the fluid dynamics of the air. So you can find another system that combine at the same time all these features and all these needs. That means that this complexity, it's very, let's say, useful to learn how to manage the design of the yacht. And I believe that this is not related just to designing a yacht. I think that being able to manage the process, the design process of the yacht, you could be able to transfer this experience even in several other fields of application of design. So that means that this capability could be useful, not only taking into account the will to become a yacht designer or to work in a yacht. At any rate, to do that, we try to transfer you all the information, all the skills that are related to the topics of yacht design, of yacht construction, on production organization and management, and even giving you some support in working in team. As I told you before, this is essential. You can't imagine to work in this field without having a relationship with many kind of professionals. So you have to talk with the designer, with the engineer, with other people who are at the same time involved in the process with a different approach, with different hierarchy that they follow. And generally, you as a designer has the task to manage even the conflicts that these could carry out. What's the outcome? The outcome is the capability to work at different level within this process. And that means that you can be involved in, let's say, in a studio. So you can be asked to deal about design, to develop new project. But at the same time, the same kind of attitude you can use, you can express, even working in the technical office of a yard, where you receive the design from the design studio, and you have to transfer these to production. And you could be the interlink between the studio and the production. That means that you should manage this process through a design capability. On the other hand, you can be involved in the production. You have to control the production. You have to control the quality of the process. You can be involved in the relationship with the customer. So you can be asked to deal about styling and customization of the yacht. If we move, for example, to the top yacht, you have a perfect, wholly customized product, and that means that you should have the capability to understand the wheel, to translate this into a design, and to manage with the yard or with the production how to solve the problem, how to manage the cost of this request, and so on. For doing that, we are the structure of the master is made of some teaching modules. That means teaching unit where we deal about the different topics. So where we transfer the information related to how to design, how to use tools for design, how to manage naval architecture. That means how to manage the stability of the yacht, the performance of the yacht, to reduce consumption and friction in the water, and many other topics that can allow you to give the expected performances to the yacht. At the end of this process, that is not like a university path, because there's an overlapping of this teaching unit. You do not have the first teaching unit, and as you finish this, you start the following. But you have the possibility through the development of a design workshop to use this knowledge that you receive during the master. At the end of the period, you have you are asked to take an internship in a yard, in a studio, and this is the last part of the teaching activity that allow you to, let's say, put into practice what you learn, and even compare this experience, let's say this theoretical experience, even if we don't think that this will be just a theoretical experience, and then I show you why I'm saying that. Because when we manage activity, we try to involve you the most as possible in practical activities, both for what concerns the way of managing theoretical activities, both in getting you in touch with different players of the market. So in this picture, you can see working into the classroom with a teacher who follow you in developing the design of the motor yacht or the sailing yacht, which are the two workshops in which you will be involved. You can see a picture taken from a visit of a yard, where you have the possibility not only to understand how different could be managed the process, the building process, because a yard could be involved in the production of small yacht, a serial production in a composite, or you can have the production of a big yacht with aluminum techniques or other kind of techniques. So the same, let's say, the same process, but managed in very different way. And this is very important, because this should be part of your knowledge. Without this, you can't be a designer, or you can't start designing a yacht. Last picture is, on the contrary, a direct experience using yacht. Over this year, we made, let's say, some team building activities using yacht, but this is not probably the main goal that we try to achieve, because living on board, you have the possibility to understand how to manage the room available on board. You can understand that because you live what's your need working on board. If we are talking about a motor yacht, we can say, even if we are talking about that is, let's say, medium range or big yacht, that we are close to have the same proportion, the same room available we could have in a house on land. If we are talking about a sailing yacht, a medium sailing yacht, you can understand that the room available is not the same. So how to manage the storage, how to manage the main functional activities is something that is important that you live directly if you want to optimize when you are designing it. Some examples taken from previous exercise. As I told you, you will be involved in designing a motor yacht and designing a sailing yacht. Because these are two different worlds. The customer who could be interested in a motor yacht, it's very difficult that could look at a sailing yacht and vice versa. That means that there are some principles that you can transfer, but an approach, a sensibility, and the need to solve some problem that could be considered different. When you see, if you look at the general arrangement that you can see on the left side, you can think that in this arrangement is just show a layout, a functional layout. So it's a functional distribution, like in a house. You have cabins, you have saloon, you have a galley, you have bathroom, and so on. But take into account that to achieve these results, you have to solve many problems that you don't have in other living spaces. For example, you have to manage strictly the control of the bill of quantities. That means what's the load of everything you have on board, because the stability, the trim of the yacht is related to that. And you have to take this into account all over the design and building process. You can decide that during the process you can change something of this without having an effect on the stability and on the trim of the yacht. So that means that this is part of the complexity I said before. And beside these, there's even to take into account the structure of the yacht that affect your freedom to manage the spaces. You have to manage systems on board, a lot of systems, and you have to define in advance how to manage this. So this is part of the complexity, but at the same time, let's say even the particular opportunity that you have if you are involved in design such a living space. And that means that you are asked to manage all this complexity through the knowledge of the different level of the process. And you will be asked to manage this starting from the idea. You can see here some sketches of this yacht, and that means that you are asked even to imagine how to transfer this knowledge into an idea that you have to put on the market, that you have to sell, that should be appealing, and that means that you have to transfer in this your design capability, your sensibility, what's the mood from which you want to start, and why what is changing in the market request, in the sensibility of the customer, and so that's part of your job and your capability to use technical tools and knowledge to obtain these results. Some further picture of activities, just to let you understand how this complexity could be managed. So you can see, as I said before, the guys of last year's sailing in a yacht for 3 days. That means understanding not only principle of stability that you study during the master, but even what means living in on board, what means cooking on board, how manage the storage, and so on. And we generally use this experience even to work on design, to make exercise on board while we are sailing or living on board. You can see different picture of visits in studios, in yard, in museum, to combine historical knowledge on yacht production to the techniques, the contemporary techniques. And from this point of view, you can see in the left top corner an exercise, a practical exercise of building a small yacht, but using advanced techniques. So working on composite material with vacuum, and the same way that you can use in advanced production of a yacht, of a racer, and whatever you like. Some information on what happened at the end of the master. Then we can go deeper with your question if you like to have further details on that. The first image is related to how is managed over the last years the internship activities. As I told you, at the end of the master, you will be asked to attend an internship activities, and that means that we combine your request, your attitude, with the possibility to let you have an experience as close as possible to your expectation in a studio, if you like to work in a studio that deal about sailing yacht or motor yacht, or in a yard, and again, a yard that could deal about sailing, motor yacht, big yacht, small yacht, or even a company that work as a supplier of the yachts. So this is an activity that we start dealing about close to the end of the teaching activities, and is for sure very important, because allow you not only to put into practice your experience that you gain with attending the master, but even having a direct relationship with a player of the market. The second chart is related to the distribution of the internship. Nowadays, half of the internship are held in Italy and half in the rest of the world. And this is related to the composition of the typical composition of the classroom, because nowadays we have a range that is around 80% of people coming from abroad, and that means that at the end of the master, they could have interest in some cases to have an experience, a practical experience in Italy, or on the contrary, they'd like to have an experience in their own countries because they want to start to use this experience just to start a relationship with a potential partner, professional partner, or different combination of this will. At the end, the last line of the chart, you can see what's about the placement. I have to say that we have a very high level of placement, because more of the 80% of the students who attended the master over these 20 years are now working in the yacht field. I think I could say that I think that there's no yacht nowadays where there's not a professional coming out from the master. Because we are talking about more than 300 people, 600 people who take the title of the master in Politecnico. And what you can see in these three last chart is that even the placement is moving more and more broad, that it's reasonable, because when we had mainly Italian students at the beginning of the master, they were interested in having their professional experience mainly in Italy. Nowadays, more than 50%, even Italian guys, could be interested in having a professional experience abroad. I think that these could be enough for a first introduction. Now I give you with Elisa, I imagine, that can introduce more technical information related to how to apply to the master. Julia, please tell me if it's right, or you want me to discuss about that as well.
No, that's perfect. There's a few questions about programs to be used, and maybe.
Okay, just a moment that I open the chat. Because I don't see.
We can just ask them out loud if you like.
Okay.
If you want, Andrea, I can introduce you the question from the audience.
Yes, yes, please. Arianna Bionda is teaching manager of the master. So I think that we can manage together both the question and the answer. Elisa, if you want to introduce this last slide, and then we skip to the question.
Yes, sure. Mainly, here you may find the link to proceed with the application. It is here, but it is also mentioned in the specific web page of the master in the area that is named admission. So by January the 11th, you need to go on the form and to fill it with your personal data and upload your CV, motivation letter, a portfolio of project if you have a background in design or architecture, and then a scanning of your bachelor degree, of your university transcript, and of your ID card or passport. After you will have filled the form and uploaded this document, we will fix a selection interview taking place online by Skype or through platform with the board of the master. So mainly with Professor or with Arianna, we coordinate with them. And as we said, the very last deadline is going to be in January, but we go through the path of the selection according to a chronological order. We are already fixing interviews with candidates, so we would suggest not to wait until the very last moment to apply, because there is a limited number of students who can be admitted, that is 30, as mentioned here. And so mainly the suggestion is not to wait until the last moment to submit your application, so that you have also time to arrange everything, mainly your attendance to the master, in case you need to move from abroad, or mainly you need to arrange your working life, or your life in general, let's say. So,
okay, so we can pass through the question and answer session.
Yes, we have, let's say, moving from the more technical one to the, let's say, the internship one. So moving from the path, like the path of the master. Guys ask us how is it organized exactly during the week? So how many hours per day and day per week we have?
Okay, I do the reply. So the master is organized with 3-4 days per week, full times. That means that we manage teaching activities over the week. And we combine in the calendar that we plan at the beginning of the master all the activities. That means even the activities on design, even the external activity that could be experience made in laboratory, visiting yard and studios, and any other kind of activities. This is what you will be involved to do starting from February to the end of July, and starting from the month of September, generally you start the internship activity. At the beginning of the new year, we close the activity, and so you will be asked to present the final results of the design workshop that you prepared over the teaching activity period.
Okay, then they ask us about programs like software that we use during the master, and if they need to have some previous skills in Rhinoceros, for example, or Fouter or something like that. That we suggest to have.
Yes, for sure. Then we generally refer to the use, and we start using a specific parametric 3D software whose name is MaxSurf, because it's a specific software used not only for design, let's say the shape of the hull, but even to interlink this shape with other parameters, that is fluid dynamics, optimization, structural features, and so on. So for what concerns these, you will have a module interlinked with the design workshop, the 2 design workshop, and so you will be asked to acquire the knowledge of using these. We do not have the possibility to introduce in the economy, in terms of time of the master, of time available for the master, other let's say knowledge transfer on other software, but even because generally people who attend the master have a previous experience in this. So generally designer, architect, but even engineer have a knowledge let's say, even basic knowledge of a 3D modeling software like Rhino or any other, this for sure will help you in having this knowledge. If not, is suggested to acquire in advance, let's say, at least a basic knowledge of one software that can allow you to manage a 3D layout of an object. That could be a yacht, but even whatever you like. Mariana, if you want to add something on that, please do.
No, it's perfect. It's just it's suggested to have, let's say, basic skills in design, and both for what concern hand drawing, sketching, and also something about digital tools like softwares. We really suggest you to have basic knowledge of AutoCAD. That is really useful for what concern managing also the job placement after, and even at least the Rhino, if you don't know other software like 3D Max Fusion, CATIA, or something that is parametric. So I think that at least a basic knowledge of AutoCAD and Rhino is, let's say, a bit mandatory to apply, but let's say also to find an internship after and the job position in the sector. Then we have the question about like the 3-month internship, the internship that we have. They ask how it works. So approximately how it works, the placement, I think, for the internship and the selections.
Yes, two different things. For the selection, is something that what we manage through interview. As Elisa told you before, you are asked to fulfill a form and let us have your CV and even your portfolio if you have. And we manage an interview in which we can discuss with you what's your previous skills, not necessarily in yacht design, but in design or engineer or in other applied sciences. And what's your motivation? Because I didn't say that for sure this is a job that requires you to have a strong motivation and a passion. I don't believe it's possible to manage about yacht if you're not fascinated by this word and you have the passion of working on new ideas on yacht. So during this interview, we can evaluate this with you, and we will give you a feedback on this in order in terms of admittance to the master. For what concerns the other part of the question, how is managed the internship placement, I already introduced before that we discuss this with you and we take from you some expectation on the type of internship that could be closer to your will, but even take into account our capability to understand what could be the best role, the best situation that can fit your profile. And so this is something that we start working, and we did about, let's say, at least 2 or 3 months on this in order to let you have the better experience as possible. After these activities, there's a direct relationship with the yard or the studio. That means that there will be an interview in order to exchange information on how they are going to involve you in which kind of field, if we are talking about a company, or which kind of product, which kind of project, or at which stage of the project they will be able to involve you. And that means that we find a match to optimize your expectation to the possibility to do a very profitable experience.
Thank you, Andrea. So last question, I think. They ask us, what about, let's say, choosing yacht design at the mid of the career, so switch from another career to yacht design, and which is the age distribution that generally our students have during the master?
I can reply from 25 to 50 and over, it's good, or at least this was our experience. We had people coming not only from different background in terms of, let's say, formation, university background, that means designer, architect, engineer in the different field, but even people with economic background, management background that are interested in doing this experience, not because they decide at the end of their career to become a designer, being an engineer or a manager, but to better understand what they can acquire through a path of focused on design in their specific activities. That means that there's not a specific limit. It's not a joke. We had people more than 50, and we have people coming at the master at the end of the degree. So that means that the expectation could be different for sure, but I think that even this is something that could be considered an adding value, because even within the classroom you have the possibility to interact with different kind of profile, not only for what concerns the skills, but even from the experience. People coming from experience in industry, other field of application could be very useful even for the yacht field. And this is something that can start transferring within the classroom itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Was open the microphone. So last two questions, let's say, no, last question. They say that there are a lot of, let's say, experience that we do in the field, like on board, in shipyard and visits and so on. And they ask us, but if the lesson will be online, will be not possible to make it a visit, how you manage it? So it's exactly what we are managing now.
Yeah. I have to say that probably 4 months ago, I wouldn't have an answer to this question, but I have to say that this last month has been very helpful in this. So the perspective is to start teaching activities anyway online, let's say first month, fourth month enough, and then switch to, let's say, common teaching activities. If, of course, this is our launching the master in the month of February, we hope that the situation could be fine and better than now. But I have to say that we already gained a good experience in managing the activities, because this year we were locked after 1 month of activities. And so this asked us to convert some activities in remote modality, just for giving you an example, me and Arianna next week will be in a yard in managing, let's say, a virtual visit. That means giving all the information that we can transfer to the participant of the master through a live streaming video that we collect with people in the yard, the manager, the production responsible, and many other. And I have to say that for sure this is something that don't give you the possibility to have a whole experience, a direct experience live, but there are some advantages in this, because we notice that when we are there, we can focus because we point a camera on details. We talk about these technical items that in some cases, when you visit a yard and you are not so skilled, could be not so evident. And so for sure this is a compromise, but it's not up to us to decide. And so I can say that this experience we all did over this year will be very helpful in managing this opportunity, even if we'll be in a standard condition in which we will manage activities in presence.